seems to be working excellent. Hello everybody, I'm Paul Ducklin from Sophos. Welcome back for another edition of Naked Security Live. As you can see from the screen, today's title is Don't Get Hoaxed, Pass It On. So we're in the ironic situation today of talking to you in the hope that you will talk to your friends and family by passing on to them information about stuff that they shouldn't pass on to anyone else. So it's as though we're asking you to jump on social media and spread a story about not spreading a story. And that's the difficult irony. So we've talked about this before. This is not a new problem. And in fact, the specific hoax we're going to look at as the example, as the sort of proof of the pudding, if you like, for today, is not a new hoax either. It's one that we first wrote about back in March 2020. So that's just right at the beginning of lockdown, coronavirus lockdown for those in the UK. And it looked like this. It was, I suppose, kind of believable. Let me just, whoops, exited that. Let me open up the image. I hope you can see it there. And it went something like this. This was mainly on WhatsApp, but also on other social media sites. Straight from the City of London police fraud team. Extremely sophisticated scam going about this morning. Definitely Danske Bank customers, but possibly all banks. You get a message saying a payment hasn't been taken, e.g. O2, EE, those are UK mobile providers, etc. The newer hoax has some more providers stuck in there. And to click here. Do not do it, it says. As soon as you touch it, the money is gone. They already have all your details, and it's the most advanced scam. It goes on to say, it's the most advanced scam the banks have ever seen. Police are inundated with calls. Thousands are flying out of bank accounts. Now you may remember that one, and unfortunately, unlike some of them are more far-fetched Facebook hoaxes we've seen in the past, like there was one at one time that said, whatever you do, do not change your profile picture to a giraffe, otherwise the crooks will wade into your account. And another that said, do set your profile picture to an egg. That was a hoax, a meta hoax, a hoax about a hoax. But this one has a ring of truth in it. Unfortunately, the only thing that's true about it, let's go through it again. It says, the only thing that's true about this is the bit in the middle. You get a message saying a payment hasn't been taken and to click here. That's true. And that's what happened back in March. And unfortunately, I'm guessing it's the same crooks. They're back, certainly in the UK, probably in other countries. The words in the text are likely to change. This is what we've spoken about before on Naked Security Live. Smishing, which is phishing via SMS. And there's the message that went around earlier this week. We haven't received your recent bill payment. Please update your details at blah to avoid additional fees. So it's correctly spelled. It looks all right. It's even got the name O2 in the URL. But of course, that's at the left-hand end of the URL. They're hoping on a mobile phone you won't notice that it ends in some made-up gobbledygook, which is a fake domain. So you can see what's probably happened here. Why this particular hoax has suddenly surged back into life. And the reason's quite simple. Namely that if you've seen this hoax floating around, or maybe not you, but if one of your friends and family have seen it and they're disinclined to believe it, suddenly one of the items in the list of things that make up this hoax suddenly came true. They got a message that said, a fraudulent message that said they hadn't paid their O2 account. And somehow what people are doing is they're taking that, the only true part of the actual hoax message, that there is a, hey, here's a fraudulent payment site going around. That's the only thing that's true in the hoax. Everything else is absolutely false. But unfortunately, people kind of use reasoning the other way around. They look at this, they say, everyone's saying that's a hoax, that's all a load of rot, the City of London police aren't saying that, there's no sophisticated scam, I haven't heard anything from any of the banks, the police aren't saying anything about it, and there's no messages like this. Oh, there are messages, so all of the other things must be true. And that, unfortunately, sometimes is all that hoaxers need to get a hoax to surge up again. Now, unfortunately, or maybe it's fortunate, I think that many hoaxes just get back to their critical mass and start spreading again because people kind of think they ought to help their buddies and maybe no harm will be done if they forward it. I suspect that in many cases these hoaxes are started by people who, if they're not exactly cyber criminals, they don't have your worst interests at heart, but they kind of think it's funny to make other people look foolish and to try and convince people to believe things that aren't true. So why is this a problem? Well, the real deal here is that I think, and I've heard people that I know well, people who know a lot about IT security, who work in IT security themselves, who help support other people, tell me that when hoaxes like this run around and they don't tell their friends, later their friends say, "Why didn't you forward that to me?" And they say, "Because it was a pack of nonsense. I wasn't going to forward something that's obviously untrue, and a simple bit of research would prove that it's false. I'd just be contributing to fake news malarkey going on." And their friends would say to them, "But imagine if it were true and you hadn't told me, how bad you'd look and how bad I'd feel, because I'd feel that you'd let me down. Why didn't you just tell me and let me make my own mind up?" And unfortunately, being an expert, being a trusted authority, being a trusted advisor doesn't work like that. If you like or share or show somebody something with the inviting them to make the inference that it's true, then you're influencing them, particularly with scams like this, to do stuff that is entirely a waste of their time. This is time that they could have spent doing something that would protect them genuinely against threats that they are likely to have. Like the actual only true part of the hoax. The bit about the message where you shouldn't click the link because you will go to a criminal site. You won't have your bank account instantly drained as soon as you touch the link, but you are taking yourself into harm's way, and that's the important thing. If you forward hoaxes like this, what you're suggesting to other people is there's some kind of silver bullet that if you just simply ignore the hoax, then if you ignore the scam email, then you've kind of immunized yourself against everything. It means that you don't really understand what the risk is. Because if you did click the link and you noticed that nothing happened to your bank account, then you might, on the basis of that kind of information, be inclined to believe, well, this obviously isn't the scam one. So let's go very quickly through some tips, three tips. These, oops, sorry, dropped the notes. These are not so much tips for you who are watching now. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you have a very good idea of why these things are a problem, and you probably go out of your way to try and speak to your friends and family about it. The purpose of this video is to encourage you, if you like, to fight the good fight so that people aren't spreading fake news about cybersecurity that causes people who generally don't spend that much time on cybersecurity anyway to waste that little time they do have instead of helping them to do something useful with it. So the first thing is, please don't spread discredited stories. This one is trivial to check out because the very first sentence is, the City of London Police Fraud Squad have said this. If you go to actionfraud.police.uk, or if you go to the City of London Police Twitter feed, you will find that they have in the past put out news about this hoax, and the news they have put out is to tell you, we did not say what was claimed, this is a hoax, do not forward it. So actually if you go to that seat of authority that is claimed by the people spreading this hoax, then you will find that that seat of authority does have something useful to say to you, and that is to inform you in no uncertain terms, clearly and clinically, that it is indeed a hoax. The second tip, this is not so much something that I'm sure that you are all familiar with this, but this is something that you need to try and get across to friends and family, anyone that you're a go-to person in IT for, because this really matters. And that is, when you receive stuff via social media about cybersecurity problems, don't be sucked in by claims to authority. Anybody can write, "The police said this," or "A court case was settled with this result," or "So-and-so got arrested and this is what they admitted to having done in the cybercrime world," without it being true. Those are just words. What you need to do is go and check that that's the case, and in this hoax, in order to give it that sense of authority, the people creating this hoax have had to put in some genuine names, like City of London Police. Now, the City of London is the so-called square mile, and it's a little bit bigger than a square mile, but that's a sort of financial district in Greater London, and that's where many banks are headquartered and a lot of financial stuff goes on. So you can imagine the City of London Police Fraud Squad probably do know an awful lot about what's going on in the cyber underworld, but what they do know is they can tell you that what's described in that particular hoax is not true. So don't be seduced by claims to authority. Use them as a reason to go and check out what that authority actually said. That will do you a lot more good. And lastly, the most important thing to remember here is to advise your friends and family, don't forward hoaxes on the grounds that it's better to be safe than sorry. A lot of people forward this kind of stuff with the very, very best will in the world. They think, as I mentioned earlier, that if they don't tell their friends, and there's a 1 in 10,000 chance that it might be true, and their friends find out that they knew and didn't tell them, they'll be really cross about it. And they'll go, why didn't you tell me? I could have saved myself. And the problem is that you can't make something true just by repeating it over and over again. Unfortunately, particularly when cybersecurity is concerned, and there is a hint of technical truth, and a name like City of London Police Fraud Squad in the hoax, it's very easy for you, if you're just saying, I don't really believe this, but I'm sending it to you anyway. That's not really how the recipients are going to receive it. So the problem is that there is no such thing as, well, I'd rather be safe than sorry. Because if you're continually forwarding stuff that turns out to be completely bogus, that you're warning people about scams that aren't, about things that are bad things that could happen to them if they click this link or open that file that aren't going to happen in that particular case, basically you're teaching people to take precautions just because. And if you think about it, that is exactly the technique that many crooks rely upon. You'll receive an email, there's an attachment in it. The attachment won't do you harm if you open it, because the default security settings on your computer will block the harmful stuff happening, but the crooks will advise you in the email, oh, by the way, for extra security reasons, as advised by this important person, because of this, that and the other, because of for your privacy, you need to click this button, or you need to change this setting, or you need to do this thing that is normally associated with insecurity. Do that, you're actually improving things. So if you're teaching people to take cybersecurity advice that frequently turns out to be false, what you're doing is you're actually softening them up, that when the crooks try the same trick specifically to get something past security settings that are already in place, by tricking someone into reducing their security by thinking that they're really increasing it. If that's what you're doing, then you are making a bad thing worse. So if you do want to advise your friends and family what are the experts, what might the City of London Police Fraud Squad, what might actionfraud.police.uk be warning you about right now, why not go to their website? And these things they're definitely true in the UK, because this is a UK police site, but they're certainly things that are worth mentioning to your friends. Much better to mention this than hoaxes about messages that aren't going to do what is said in the hoax. And the three things that they're particularly reminding everyone about at this time, so I'll repeat them here because I think it's worth it. The first is investment fraud. Be very careful about whom you decide to trust and what you decide to buy into, whether it's cryptocurrencies, or whether it's some kind of weird financial instrument you've never heard of, or whether it's a property investment overseas. Particularly since people can't meet up at work these days, they're doing a lot of their sort of shopping and their research and maybe even their investment stuff online, and investment fraudsters are cashing in on that. Fake sellers online is another thing. There's some excellent advice on there about how to spot that a seller probably isn't going to sell you the goods, or it's somebody trying to buy something from you, but really what they want to do is they're actually fishing for information in a sort of face-to-face, person-to-person way, rather than just spamming out emails. And the last one, of course, particularly tragic but very pertinent. Now lots of us are in lockdown, and so if if we are trying to build some kind of new relationship with someone, we're probably doing it online. The third one is romance scams. That's where you meet someone online, they seem to have all the right interests, they say all the right things, they absolutely love you, they tell you they're the best person in the world, and then suddenly they want money, and at the end of it you find out that basically the money has gone into a pit and you're not going to get it back. So just to repeat those things, please don't forward hoaxes. If you can see that it's a discredited story, the fact that a few people that you might know have forwarded it to you, even if thousands of them forward it to you, if you can see that the story contains falsehoods or it's already been debunked, go and check your facts. There's no point in you forwarding it as well. That just makes a bad thing worse. Never be tricked by claims to authority, particularly claims that XYZ police force has confirmed this, or so-and-so cybersecurity team or experts have reported this. Basically, those are just words. Anybody can say them. Go and check your facts. And thirdly, don't think that you'll forward something that sounds unbelievable just in case it's true and you might help the next person. Because as I said, what you're doing is you're distracting them from looking out for the online scams that really are a problem and might actually catch them out at this time. And just to repeat what actionfraud.police.uk are warning about right now, the three things to basically stop, think, connect before you do anything with: watch out for fake sellers online, be very careful about investment advice that promises you the world, whether it's cryptocurrencies, property investments, interest-bearing stuff, whatever it might be. And please watch out for those friends online, the people that you fall in love with who actually turn out to be rogues and rotters. So watch out for romance scams. It's okay to build a friendship with someone online, but if what just felt like a nice, happy friendship with someone far away suddenly turns to money, ask yourself, I wonder what's in it for me compared to what's in it for them. So thanks for listening, folks, and until next time, stay secure and don't spread those hoaxes. And tell your friends and family not to tell other people about them too. Thank you.